Excellent. All right, Connor's AI is taking notes. Awesome. Well, welcome everybody to yet another office hours. Anthony has the week off. Somehow he got vacation. I don't know how, but I'm going to talk to him about that. In the meantime, Phil is going to be helping me out a little bit with exactly with answering any questions and responding to chat and letting people in the front door. And we also are joined by Amanda today. She is doing everything these days. She will be telling us what she's going to be working on. And yes, Philip will be letting people into Discord and posting links. Awesome. Well, before we get started, like to start this off with, does anybody have any questions? Anything that stumped them? Anything you guys want to talk about this week? Is everybody really tired from all the shows that you went to? Or did you learn anything new at any of the shows? I have not been able to go to many of them. I've been stuck here in this office, so you guys are my only contact to the outside world.
Morning, guys.
Morning. How you doing, Enrique?
Good. It's cloudy outside.
It is very cloudy outside. It's been storming over here too.
That's where your eyes will feel the need to inform you.
Well, very nice, very nice. I do have a window. I occasionally it's open. Awesome, awesome. Well, cool. Well, if nobody has any questions or anything to talk about, I can definitely turn it over to Amanda. A last
Oh, I,
chance.
I came in late. I did not hear that part, Ben.
Oh
I think
yeah,
you said
yeah.
it before I arrived on purpose.
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah, yeah.
Just,
You're
just a
you're a talker, I know.
just a quick one.
All right, everybody, quick before Enrique
Yeah,
gets in here.
yes. So the MFA, what is it with success? The rule we set up that I named after you.
Oh gosh.
The what does it detect? It detects brute force
Mm.
with success. So I've had it triggered twice.
Oh,
Once last week while I was at the Kaseya Connect in Vegas, so I actually ran to your booth and they helped me analyze what was going on. Live SaaS alert support. And then it happened last night to the IT director of one of my companies, and turns out it's happening on the iPhone. When they go
interesting.
to log in, Azure or the Microsoft login kind of times out, or just, sometimes it loses its memory and it just goes and goes.
Certainly.
It's logging in, trying to log in, and it sends like 30 a minute or something like that. And then it's registered as not successful, and then finally it logs in, I guess after it gets better signal or something.
Yeah.
So now it's a failed brute force becomes successful.
Oh,
So knocks them down. And both one customer, they were driving in the car, so they're like, we couldn't have been doing anything. I don't think that was an iPhone because that was coming from their house. But some program is trying on the back end, something happens, and it's a weird one.
that is weird.
Yeah, just FYI.
You could I don't know if it would work or not, but there is a filter to I believe ignore mobile devices for that.
But I think the first one was not mobile because the lady was in her car driving and it was happening
Mm.
from her Google connection at home.
Oh, interesting. Very
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Good to know. Good to know. Well, that reminds me of diagnosing problems at trade shows. Daniel, I don't want to pull you and put you on the spot, but you have a very interesting story of some adventure recently, right, at a trade show.
About time they let the most technical resource talk on here. No, we had someone actually at the Troop Here event that one of the customers he had, they were suspecting something was going on with the user. We ran the account detail report on him, and the guy had deleted over 200 files, and it was credit cards, site plans. It was a construction company, and he was like, "What should I do?" I'm like, "You should probably call your customer and tell them to fire him." If I had to bet, but it was pretty interesting to see.
That's wild. Yep. Angry employees, man. That happen. Mm, that's very cool. It's really neat when you can actually like see stuff like that and improve the value right there and be like, because I mean, most people wouldn't even know it happened until they were already at the door.
Yeah, and they're not mad. They're happy we stopped it, especially their IT directors. They're like, we'll deal with the lady being mad or the guy being mad after the fact. I go, we're
Yeah,
not here for sentimental values. We're here to protect you guys. And so we'll leave that at the door. I have a very stupid quick question, not related, just off a call I came off of.
sure.
Ransom remotely, like a server gets encrypted, a domain controller that wasn't protected,
Hmm.
2008. Is it common from the server to execute a remote encryption of machines?
Oh yeah. Most of the ransomware, it kind of moves into like they classify it as a worm. But when you have the administrative credentials of a server, especially at AD, you can get to any computer on the network by going to the hidden C drive folder. It's like C dollar
C
sign.
dollar, yep.
And from there, I can encrypt every single file. And so it's a very fast way for it to
Should
spread.
any EDR pick it up besides
Um,
canary files?
Canary files are great, but by the time you're getting to that point, it's uh, probably a little too late since how fast it can really move. So as far as preventing it, it's a tough one. Uh,
Because that server we got encrypted wasn't protected, the 2008, but the rest of the machines were.
yeah,
And we found files encrypted on some of the machines. And the EDR, SOC, MDR did not see anything.
yeah, and it wouldn't because it's not a process that's even running on the machine. Most of the time, when I was at my MSP, our biggest protection against that was making sure that we had a backup platform for Office that also included OneDrive and SharePoint and had the ability to detect ransomware and would stop backing up if it detected it, so that you could always revert. That was one of the easiest protections to do, and usually the cheapest too, especially when you consider the amount of data.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a toughie. And it's funny, Microsoft has an alert for ransomware, but it doesn't work. I think it was something they were experimenting with as far as like a log. But yeah, I've never seen it actually like detect anything helpful.
I wonder when it's encrypting, there's something that happens to the files that you could
Possible.
detect.
Uh, File name would be the best thing, but honestly, it's
I
so
don't know if you can
random what they
catch up
call
to
it.
it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. You wouldn't be able to catch up to it. It would let you know after the fact.
Yeah.
But it's
Well, it's
it's
usually
definitely
funny
tricky.
names like the extension. So anything past 3 characters or four in the extension to me should be maybe at least a lot of false
Yeah.
alerts. But any which way, just threw that one out there. Now I'm going to be quiet.
No, no, no. That's a great question. That's definitely that's a terrifying prospect. Yeah, they
Yeah.
say ransomware like is going down, but it's there's still money to be made. Most of the time, it's harder to support. I heard a while ago that there was this when ransomware was like the big thing. It was like they would have call centers that were better tech support than like when you could get a Dell or something. And so their people were friendly and happy to try to get your data back for you, and then as long as you were paying.
Yeah. It's all about customer service.
It really was with them. So Mr. Kennedy here says that yeah, some tools will back up for telltale signs, the files of a backup. So yeah, it's whenever we were picking our SaaS backup, it was just that was one of the requirements was that is something checking to make sure the files haven't been massively modified and encrypted, because nothing's worse than restoring a backup that is of more encrypted files or that lets the bad guy back in. So yeah, but no, good question. Does
Thank you.
anybody else have anything going on? Anything top of mind on there? It doesn't even have to be related to SaaS alerts.
So I had a little bit of a utility hiccup with the account cleanup tool to
Mhm.
do the stale accounts. And I learned after the fact that some stale accounts are tied to phone devices,
Mm.
which never sign in. So guy signs in and months later. So we were Ben and I were just chit chatting about maybe there might be some other metrics to kind of to employ for trying to determine if the account is really idle, as opposed to having a sign in that is once in a blue moon. So I ended up having to go back and kind of revert about 3/4 of the 200 plus records that got modified. Being nicely meshed in with Microsoft makes it really darn fast to to lock accounts out. So gotta be careful with those tools, I guess.
Yes, yes. No, that's a great question. And Amanda, I don't know if you do too much on that end of the developer or not. Was there anything you want to say about that?
No, so yeah, so account management kind of falls underneath my purview because it leverages the respond module. Right now, we don't have anything planned to enhance that screen, but that doesn't mean that, feedback like that is helpful for us so that we know when we're looking at enhancements what we can include. So
Is there anything that, I guess, where do we pull our activity from? And is there
yeah, so we recently updated where we're pulling the activity from. It is no longer last sign in. It really truly is last activity. So if you have one of those devices that they don't consistently log in on, however, they have had some sort of activity, they saw an email, they saw whatever, it does track the last activity. So it should reduce the number of accounts that you're seeing in there that appear as stale that aren't technically stale.
All right, and I could skim that using Ben's suggestion was to go to the accounts under the organization accounts thing and look at the expiration there. It's that's where it's also applied in that
Yes.
account?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you for that. Appreciate that.
for sure?
Sure.
Yeah, I was looking at Azure the other day. I was like, there's got to be a way for us to identify, like, is it shared mailboxes? And like in Azure, it's funny because they're all listed as members, right? So it's like they're hard to tell.
It is. It is.
So I would love to see a rule that does that. But I do know we have, is it a Fortify control that can also block sign in for shared mailboxes?
Correct. Yes.
And I learned that's kind of a process. That's something that a job that would run that kind of goes through and looks for those accounts and makes that change. At first I thought it was like a conditional access policy, but it's an actual process. So I thought that was really interesting. Cool.
I mean, is there a problem with shared mailboxes? Sorry, Enrique
No.
had his hand. Sorry.
That's a good question. And so shared mailboxes, there's not a problem with them. It's just if they can be signed into, they're considered an attack vector. And we have a lot of MSPs that will say, why am I being billed for this shared mailbox? And it's because it can still be signed into. But if we block sign in for those accounts, email will still go through it and it'll be perfectly functional. And I believe you can also access it through a delegated controls. But you cannot directly sign into it. And so it's no longer attack vector and no longer billable.
So quick question, Ben, when you said fortify, you triggered something. You can't say keywords because you trigger the hamsters.
Fortify, unify.
On the fortify front, do you know off the top of your head, I had a customer get blocked after I tweaked or tweaked some rules in Fortify.
Mhm.
So he could no longer download and install Microsoft 365 from when you log into Office 365, how it gives you the option on the top right or middle top right
I know
to
exactly
download
what
and install the app. So I told him he should use Google Suite.
I love it. So I know what that one. That one is block access to Azure portals, which in theory
That's
is
what I thought,
great.
but sounds
Yeah.
suspicious because it's like, is it
It is.
admin? Is it on the other side?
Unfortunately, the way that we're currently doing that is it's a group policy that blocks that access, but it also blocks access to a bunch of other portals as well, like the ability to download Office, the ability to remove any sort of quarantined email, and there's a couple other ones that people use. There's a different way to do that I'm talking with our developers on right now. That it's changed in a different part of Office that will only restrict you from accessing portal.azure.com or intra.microsoft.com. But
Okay.
that's the exact control. We had one person bring up that exact suggestion and say, I enabled it, but now they can't get into here. And I was like, okay, well, there's got to be a way for us to make some exceptions to that conditional access policy, and there are none at all. It's Microsoft's like all or nothing, and I'm like, well, that doesn't help.
And that's via the conditional access, right? So if I
Yep.
put that in audit mode only, it should have kicked in.
Yep. And
Okay.
and yeah, but like there you can make exceptions to that specific conditional access policy,
To
but none of
eliminate.
them,
Oh, none of them match on the cloud
no,
apps.
none of them match on the cloud
Okay.
apps. Yeah, like
Okay.
it's the silliest thing. And it doesn't even tell you that. It's just when the client goes to it, it gives them this really, really weird message like 401 something. It doesn't even say like, sorry, you've been blocked. It's just like a timeout or a 404 or something. And it's very, very interesting, but very
I was
Microsoft.
going for another price on security, on enforcing security, and I think I overdid it. So,
I mean, honestly, I think it's a great thing to do because nobody should have access to the Intra and Azure directory, right? And so that's the first thing I was like, this is perfect. A control that does this, and apparently it's very heavy-handed. But like I said, there is a different way of doing it. I can get you that method that blocks that access because a
please.
normal user can get on to that part of the portal and get tons of information. They might not be able to change anything, but I mean, I can do
Yeah,
some
you can see
serious
everything.
integration. Yeah. Yep. Exactly. It's the same thing with like Active Directory. Even your lowest privileged user has a lot of access. But yeah, I will actually make Phil. Actually, Phil, if you wouldn't mind making a note for me to follow up with our dev on that. Thanks, buddy.
Will do.
Yeah, I think we had started talking about it a while ago. I was like, we need to be able to change this setting. It's some sort of setting in security.microsoft or something. It's like a checkbox. It's not even a conditional access policy. So cool. Awesome. Well, Enrique, did you want to talk about respond or unify or analyze? Oh, he froze. Or I froze. No, there he is. He's back. Welcome back. All right. Well, I'll leave this rest of this time up to Amanda. And if you have any questions feel free to jump in. But Amanda, what are you working on? Anything exciting new that is not common knowledge that you can talk about?
Yeah, I mean, some things might be common knowledge, but probably worthwhile just still rehashing with everybody. So I'm in charge of Fortify, Respond, Reports, and Events. Today, I don't really have anything worthwhile mentioning around events because that's just a kind of a nebulous topic. But so a couple of things on the Fortify front. As some of you might know, we released templates a few weeks back. We are now going to be releasing community templates. That should be coming this week, next week, so very near future. Community templates will be where you can actually submit to SaaS Alerts your template that you've created in Fortify and recommend it to be a community template. The publish button is actually already there. So if you have some templates that you think would be beneficial to the rest of the community, please feel free to press the publish button. You'll find that when you edit the template. That'll then trigger a process over here to me so that I know it's there. Our team can review it. And then when we launch community templates, we're going to launch with a few templates already in there, but then we'll have our cadence to review whatever people are recommending, I should say, for publishing. And we'll be adding those after the review process. So that community templates is coming shortly. And then we are also currently evaluating additional products that we can add to Fortify. So as an example, Intune, we know we're able to modify some of the Intune settings within our Fortify kind of space. So Intune will be added to Fortify. and then continuing to evaluate additional products that we can add to that module. Once we're done with community templates, we are actually going to add a new feature. Calling it parameters now in the background might be called something differently once we come out to everybody with it. But essentially, parameters allows you to customize a recommended action per organization. So as we keep talking about being able to do, like add MFA, except for the break glass account, like the parameters would be able to let you do that except the break glass account kind of thing, to give you an example. So that'll be the next big piece coming after community templates. And then another item that we're working on currently and will be coming out shortly is additional frameworks. NIST 2.0 will be the next framework. And so we are mapping those to the recommended actions now. Everywhere you see framework for CIS now, you will see NIST once we release that. So it'll be in the exact same place. The filters will be adjusted so you can see the drop down for CIS versus NIST. And I'm working on making that so that there's a little bit of hierarchy there so that you can select CIS versus NIST versus having to go down to the bottom level.
Cool. Well, Rich had a question. Said, are the community templates tagged as coming from the community and versus, I guess, ones that we would be releasing from ourselves?
Yes. So there's a whole other section for those. Let me log in. I was only logged into reports. I will log into Dev and I will show you guys.
Oh, cool.
So when you go into templates, there's two radio buttons essentially at the top. One says templates and one says community templates. So you'll actually be able to see the difference between the two.
My question was, if you deployed a community template and you're now looking at all your templates you're using, can you say, oh, that's a community one?
Once you deploy it, it'll be underneath your templates. Because you can make any modifications you want to it. You can relabel it. You could say, once we have parameters, you could add your own exceptions. You'll apply it to your own orgs. So once you do it from the community, it'll just be like respawn rules. When we have the templates where you duplicate the template from there, same thing. You'll duplicate the community template and then it'll show up in your templates.
Yeah, and you can always, the person doing it can just put a comment in there that it originated from the community template bucket.
Yeah. Yes.
Very cool.
So, let's see. Can you guys see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So see, like I'm in Dev, so community templates is already activated. So you'll have these two radios. Once we have the templates here, you'll be able to pick from them, and it'll have that duplicate button, just like Respawn does, and you'll then make it your own, just borrowing it from the community templates, and then it'll appear in your list of your templates with whatever naming. And again, you could do the description, copied from blah, 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 but you'll then see yourselves and what date, you actually applied it. You can add your own tags and you'll see which organizations you have it against.
What are tags for, if you don't mind me asking? Sure.
Tags are just organizational purposes, right? So we didn't release any tags. It's up to the individual if they want to use them or not. Mm-hmm. So you create the tags if you want. So in here you can see Anton did a test just to see if he could test it. And it's the only tag in our dev environment. But an example I've seen is, like if we do get to a point where you're doing something for just 80 free licenses, you could do a tag that says that. You could do a tag that says, like this is specific to communication, or this is specific to security policy X, whatever the tag wants that you want to organize the templates by, so that you have a quick little view, and it'll color code them each. So if you add another tag, it'll probably be blue or green. It'll add them in different colors so you can easily see the difference between the tags.
And would tags ever show up under the completed section or anything?
Under the completed section, yes. So there's a tags column in here. Sorry, it's really slow in here today. See tags over here on the far end. So
I don't know
these
if they would ever crossover.
Yeah, it should. The tags are kind of across the board, so it should.
Okay. And Andy has a question for us. Go ahead, Andy.
Well, thanks. I had a question around tags and the ability to auto-assign them. We set them up as a result of an alert, or as a result of a policy, or and how that might be completed even at the reporting level to be able to reflect these right back out.
You'll have to apply the tag that you want to apply to it as far as the templates are concerned, because those are custom. It'll be whatever configuration you want. So when you create a new template, you're asked if you want to apply a tag here. So you'll have to select the tags that you want to include. The tags on the completed section, again, these are more about pre-existing, ongoing, remediated, like all the different statuses, essentially.
Yeah, where I was going with this is that we had a tag associated to a policy and there was a trigger on that policy and that tag got associated with it, we would be able to hone in on them very, very rapidly for reporting purposes as well as
Yeah,
action.
so we don't have the tags on the policies because those recommended actions are coming from the various products and they don't come with tags. So the tags are then applied at the template level if you want to apply a tag.
Gotcha.
Cool.
So Benjamin, I've made an ask. How's that?
Sounds good. Well, I have a question for you, Amanda.
Mhm.
How far completed would you say our CIS benchmarks are against like the guide, the list of CIS?
Yep. So
Recommendations?
we were up against, I don't remember what version of CIS it was completed. So every recommended action we had that mapped to one was completed, and that's already in the system. I have recently, Jesse from the support team, he recently updated the mapping for CIS version 8. So we'll do a pass and make sure that that gets updated to version 8 shortly. And it's NIST 2.0 that we're going with. That'll be released shortly as well.
Okay. Yeah, I've noticed the number of actions that you can apply and everything has started to grow pretty sharply.
Yep. So, as soon as we can evaluate whether an action can be done automatically, and it gives significant points, you know what I mean? So we use kind of those two pieces. Is this worth the points and the time to create this as a recommended action? And can it be automated? That's how we kind of figure out which ones we're going to add next. And we'll just keep adding to the list.
Okay. And the ones that can't be applied automatically, is there any recommendations that that you guys have on that?
So if they can't be applied automatically, we're really not adding them here, so you wouldn't see them. So as far as a recommendation is concerned, not really. Those are things you're still going to have to apply directly through Microsoft.
Sounds good. All right. That's all my questions. Anybody else have any questions about Fortify or templates? Let's see. Okay, yeah. Eric said it would also be helpful to filter for items that are not tagged. Oh, yes, under the completed for Fortify, things that are not tagged. Having that
Okay.
as an option.
Yep.
It's a good suggestion. Thanks, Eric.
All right. So then next to my list is reports. So we have the Fortify audit log coming out. I'll be showing this on the SaaS call probably next week. It's still in dev, so it's got a little bit of polishing to have happen to it. So I don't want to show it today, but essentially just to give you an idea, the Fortify audit report is going to be every time a recommended action has been touched. So right now in the org vulnerability report and the threat mitigation report, you're getting the list of the actions that were in a specific status. Like here's what was completed, here's what's pending, and here's what you could do if you upgrade your license. The audit report is literally going to be every time that recommended action was touched. So if on May 1st it was completed, but on May 2nd it regressed, you're going to have an entry for May 1st completed by so-and-so. On May 2nd, you're going to have regressed by the system because Microsoft now said it was regressed. And then on May 3rd, if someone's gone in and reapplied it to fix that regression, you're going to have another entry on May 3rd. So it's going to be the full audit of every time a recommended action has had something be touched to it, whether that was the system or not. So in the report, we have who performed the action. You will see system a chunk of the time, right? Because the system is performing things in the background. Like I said, that regression being the easiest example to give to you. So if Amanda applies the recommended action on May 1st, it's attributed to Amanda. And then if it regresses on May 2nd, it'll say the system. But at least you can back it up to Amanda started the chain of action, right? So we'll see each time it was touched, who it was touched by as well. So that report is also date ranged. So if you have to apply for an audit from January 1 to July 1, you can put in that date range and submit those 6 months. If it's something that, you just want to show what happened in the last 2 weeks, you can pick the last 2 weeks. So this way it gives you the flexibility of submitting whatever it is you're trying to submit to or for. And so that'll be coming out. Like I said, that's dev. It's got a little polishing to do before I show it off, but that's coming very shortly from the report side of the house. The other thing, just people may not know, we're going to be looking at this year is updating scheduled reporting so that you could possibly create bundles. So saying,
Very
I
cool.
want to send quarterly to this one organization these 5 reports, or, however you want to bundle the reports. So we're looking at how we can modify scheduled reports so that you can create bundles. So that is like what's coming from the report side of the house. And then lastly, from my side, respond is the last piece for me. And so the big thing is we're working on Google Workspace for Respond. This will be coming out in this first half of the year. We're very excited for it. That'll include the actions as well. So you'll be able to perform actions on those Google accounts, and you'll be able to pick if you want something that happens in Google to also trigger. It's a poor example because we know you don't have a ton of crossover of Google and Microsoft of the exact same account.
Mhm.
However, it just shows the functionality that we have planned for Respond. So if something were to happen in Google, you could actually decide to lock an account in Microsoft. And same thing moving forward as we add additional products like Slack or Salesforce or whatever. Those might be better examples for you guys to understand the concept. But if your Microsoft account is used in those different applications, if something happens in Microsoft, you can then take the step to lock all of those accounts.
Oh, wow.
So that functionality is already being exposed in Respond, although we know it's a very slight crossover between Google and Microsoft, but the functionality is already being addressed there. And once Google comes out for Respond, we will be adding to, in addition to SMS and mobile push notifications, we'll also be adding the email option for notifications.
Cool. I know a couple people that'll make happy.
Yep. And like I said, since we're doing the background work for, what happens when we add additional products besides Google and Microsoft, we're working towards, what's the list of the additional products and what's the order of those products so that we can fast track adding additional products to Respond.
That's awesome. Oh, well, Enrique, I know you had a question. You want to jump in?
Yes, on the reports, I know for security reasons, you send a link with a code.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any option? We use Cloud Radio as our repository for all the different reports, systems, email our customers and ourselves. And obviously that makes it impossible because we could send the email into the repository, but by the time you want to look at the report, the link expired.
Yep. So the a lot of our customers will use the webhooks to take the data from the report directly rather than relying on that link to share the report. So that may be an option for you for your repository, depending upon what you're doing in that repository. The link has been extended. It now expires after 30 or 31 days. I can't remember what we did with the cutoff with 30 or 31. So it's no longer just like, I think it was 7 days before. So that the expiration date has been kind of pushed out.
Okay, and then I know this has been asked in the past, but don't remember the response option to generate one report for multiple customers at the same time. Obviously, each gets their own report, but instead of having to go one by one to generate the reports or to download the reports that we could select, I want to run an MFA report for all my one customers I have.
Yep. So that's part of what we're looking at with the scheduled reports bundling. We may do, 10 reports for one organization or 10 of the same report, like the same report across 10 organizations. That's kind of on the table as to what we look at for being able to create these bundles within.
But that would be on the schedule. How about ourselves manually? Like say we had an incident with one customer and we want to go and run MFA for all of them.
Yeah, no. So the reports real time, you'll have to select organization by organization.
Okay.
I do have a couple of questions for you, Amanda.
Mhm.
So are the actions that are in Respond for Google, are they going to be exactly the same as Microsoft? Is there
They're
something we can or
close.
can't do?
They're
Okay.
close. It's almost a like for like. Google does not have a way to enforce MFA via the back end. It's a setting they haven't exposed, and each tenant can be configured differently. So there's not an API way to enforce MFA. So that one's not there. But the rest of them are. It might be slightly different wording, like, we're expiring the password instead of locking the account because they don't let you lock the account. And I might be misspeaking here because it's been a little while since I looked at the list, but it's like that kind of thing. So it's almost like for like, and we're updating the wording. So it's extremely clear what we're doing. If it says block, it really is truly a block. If we're only expiring the password, we're stating expiring password. So it'll be super clear to you if you're picking Microsoft versus Google, which action is truly going to take place.
Okay. Very cool. I give this question occasionally. Have we ever thought of giving an option to unblock an account rather than just block, maybe through the account manager or anything?
We have not.
Okay.
Just because the events we're looking for underlying are typically, not good events.
Very true. Very
For air
true.
quotes, right? Like knowing the law, like developing logic to unblock something is a little bit harder than developing the logic by combining those events to block something.
Sounds good. I have a question for Rich. He said, does Respond Microsoft depend on anything from endpoint or Intune management? So, I
So
mean,
right now, not Intune,
okay.
but yes, endpoint. So I think we hit the same endpoint for all of them. Like all those actions, the block, the delete, I'd have to double check, but I'm pretty sure those are all the same one endpoint, which is user. And when Respond actually goes to do something, Respond is hitting the Microsoft endpoint directly. So it's not relying on us to have quick endpoint and stored it in a table, and then we're going and looking up a table. We are in that minute directly hitting the Microsoft API and directly trying to apply the action. And so if that API is down, or if that API is being throttled by Microsoft, which they do a lot, Microsoft then returns to us that error message. And that results in a fair amount of the remediation failures that we get back from Respond. And so we do actually have an item open once we're done with Google, because this is such a large product. We'll go back to some of the smaller items for Respond. But one of the items is for us to clean up that wording when a remediation fails, so that you understand why Microsoft's not allowing that remediation to be applied. Because in certain circumstances, it may still be dangerous and you're going to want to do it manually, and you can do it manually. It's just the API, for whatever reason, and we'll clarify those reasons, isn't allowing us to perform the action. So it is endpoint related, but directly on the Microsoft side.
Okay. He said, thanks. And I have a question from Mr. Zach at Solutions Granted. You can probably guess what that question is. I said, on the respond email option, is that end of Q2?
Probably a little bit after that, because we're not going to start it until Google for Respond is truly stable enough for the developer to kind of take the step back to work on the email. But the email, the background work's already done. It's truly just kind of exposing it in the UI. We're not anticipating it being a long project. So if it's not Q2, it'll be right after Q2.
That sounds good. I know Corey's asked me about that too. So
I know, and I have several emails from Corey about it. So I know.
Well, you have good news to give Corey today, Mr. Zach. That's awesome. Awesome. Well, great question. Great answers. Thank you, Amanda. Does anybody else have any questions for Amanda? Knowing that she pretty much does everything in the platform.
Not everything.
I
You
don't
got
know how
Adam and
Fortify
Carolyn
got thrown
in
into your
charge
lap
of
now
everything.
too. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Amanda, for joining us and taking us through that. Look forward to the SASE call and seeing that new report.
Great.
I've gotten really great feedback from a lot of our partners on how awesome our reporting is. So it's not gone unnoticed.
Excellent.
Well, guys, unless you have anything else, happy to give you 20 minutes of your day back.
Really, Ben? You're trying to quit on us
I
this early?
mean, let's see. I don't know what else I can talk about. I've already shown you all the cool things on the internet. Oh,
Actually,
you
I just
guys
have
can
a
join our
quick
Discord server.
question. I should have grabbed it when Amanda was on, but
Sure.
the some of the tools that make reports will do quarterly summations for, as an option.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that was part of her collection of dates for the for the reporting module. So I mean, we plug the dates in to pick the quarter that we're interested in, but it'd be
Mhm.
nice to have the boilerplate style.
Okay. Yeah,
Sorry,
I can
so here, sorry. So what do you mean? Like, because right now you can pick quarterly, and the report then is scheduled quarterly. Are you talking about not scheduled, just like being able to have like a drop down instead of picking a date range when you're actively
Yeah,
picking?
no, yeah. So some of the other tools that make reports offer the quarterly
Yeah,
boilerplate. So it's just handy because like if I'm
yeah,
doing like 4 or 5 of them, it's just nice to do it that way. So
yeah.
So Amanda, I got a question from Dustin, and he brought up something that we are working on currently, and that's the Microsoft data centers in different countries. I don't know if you can say anything on that or not. I
Yeah,
know.
not really under my purview. So I don't want to speak on it. I'll probably really misspeak. That's under Liron.
Yeah, I do know that Leon's, we are working on that
Yeah.
actively, and that's something that is under active development.
Yeah, I
I've
just
heard.
don't know what the timeline is on that or what the final picture of that looks like yet either. So
Yeah, I think. Yeah, Leon showed me a couple of things. There's a lot of stuff that's going to go into
yep.
that the new whitelisting, but I know that's something that they're working on right now, and we've promised copious amounts of alcohol to whatever developer finishes it first. So
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you it's still in the design phase. It has not moved to development. It is planned for this year. And that's where I say if I were to speak, I'd probably misspeak because I don't know what the final set of requirements is going to be for it. But there is a lot to it. Yeah.
yeah, I've seen some stuff. You're right. There's a lot of moving parts to that.
Mm-hmm.
So the one thing that I can suggest, and maybe Amanda, you can back me up on this or tell me I'm wrong. We did have one partner that has both Google and Microsoft, and there is a video that shows you how to take the outside approved locations, drop them to a low, and respond, make those notifications.
Mm-hmm.
But I also noticed that you can suppress those individual file alerts outside approved location. Uh, and so that they're not going to trigger. The only downside is it lacks any sort of granularity as far as only Microsoft. But you can say suppress temporarily for up to a year the file events, and we're still going to
Mm-hmm.
record them, and we can still take action on them through respond.
Correct.
But it's just they're not going to create a ticket.
Right.
It's several different suppressions, but you can suppress the event your entire tenant wide, not just on an individual basis.
Right.
So I did walk somebody through that the other day that did want to be able to get to the Google outside approved location.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I figure I guess the biggest thing for people that want that is just the knowledge that with Respond and Google, we could even take those lower like outside approved locations and bring them back up within Google. Does that sound about right?
Correct. And that would be what we're working towards by opening Respond up to more and more products. You're able to set, the default severity to quiet mode or some variation of the quiet mode that you've configured for yourself for your own tenant, and then apply that. And then per organization or per grouping of organization, you would use Respond to then bring the severity level of what combination you want higher for that organization or group of organizations.
And Steve Newman said, what about guest account logins outside approved locations? Any way we can lower that noise?
Like not real, like, so same thing. It's you can change the default severity, but that's on the entire event itself. And then ideally you would use Respond for if the account is equal to guest kind of thing, you would do something with it. But that's about it at this stage. You can't separate them out any further.
Good question, Steve. It's definitely something we can take to the team too. Yep. All right, sounds good. Anybody else have any questions? Andy, did you want to say something or?
I will tell you, I'm intentionally being less interrogative. I guess that's the way to say that today. All right.
I don't mind.
There's just coming back from Global Connect. I'm wanting to find ways to integrate more deeply, and I also know that Google Workplace is a big step. So I'm holding off until we get that piece to say, hey, wouldn't this be great to have some integration a little more deeply?
Great, I agree. Well, welcome back, and hope you had a good time there. I heard it was definitely a good show.
Eventful, it would be one way to put it. I got to meet Enrique, and we talked on Friday. And by the way, he is one of the most well-researched MSPs I've ever met. Okay, and he's only been at it for 2 years. So
that's really good.
I'm expressing, and I mean, wow. Okay, just
That's
wow.
impressive.
If you're looking for some ideas, he's the man. Okay.
Thank you, Andy. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
That gets
I
me in
mean it
trouble. It
genuinely.
takes up 75% of my day.
Well, he's the most analytical entrepreneur I've met. Because normally it's like I'd go for a gut feeling at some point, and he's incredibly good.
Awesome.
Thank you.
That's very, very cool.
All right, guys.
Well, Amanda, a question for you from Steve again. We have he says, any way we can differentiate between file events between OneDrive versus SharePoint and Teams?
So that depends on the data that we're getting back from Microsoft in the event. And a lot of times it will say SharePoint. Sometimes it says OneDrive, but in the background, Microsoft treats those two as the same thing for certain pieces. And then we get SharePoint back, even though it was you did it in OneDrive. So very difficult. And it depends on what Microsoft is reporting to us. And we try to give you in the joint description additional, if we're getting that information back. If it says OneDrive or SharePoint, we do try to put that in the joint description additional, because there's not really a better way for us to do it right now. And it highly depends on which endpoint Microsoft is sending it to us from, like what information we're getting from them. So where possible, we'll give it to you in the joint description additional, and then you can use that joint description additional and respond to say, if it comes from OneDrive, do this. If it comes from SharePoint, do that. If that applies to what you're looking for. But really, it's difficult. It depends on if Microsoft gives it to us.
Fair point. Fair point. He says, thank you. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, there you go, Enrique. I knocked it down to 12 minutes.
Let me pull my Rolodex out. I have a secret envelope here for bank questions. Let me see. And the Emmy goes too.
What you got?
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
Y'all have a good week.
Have a
We'll
great
see you
week.
soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.